What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video I'm going to be going through the #1 draft strategy for Yahoo Fantasy Football Leagues. So yesterday I went through the #1 strategy on ESPN. Today we're focusing in on Yahoo Fantasy Football, and your strategy should be a little bit different depending on what platform you're actually playing on. ADP is going to be different. Certain players are going to be values on one platform, maybe on another their price is a little bit inflated. So it's important to, understand the differences in ADP. There's also just going to be some overall strategy trends that are different. So we're locking in on Yahoo for this video. Hopefully this video helps you guys go out and dominate your Yahoo Fantasy Football Leagues. If you do enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. But let's just dive right into it, and I want to start off at the running back position. And I think for the most part, running backs on Yahoo are pretty inflated, but I still think there are some, decent values, especially early on in drafts. Yahoo specifically, I'm someone who, based on the mock drafts I've kind of, gone through, made the picks, I like going with a hero RB draft strategy, maybe double hero RB if it works out, but I really try to avoid completely punting the running back position because even though some of those running back prices are inflated, early on in the draft, I still think there are some decent values. If you're trying to pick your first running back in like round 5, round 6, round 7, there's just not a ton of great options out there. And if you're playing with the typical Yahoo roster setup where it's, one quarterback, one tight end, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex, you really don't want to just go 0 RB and completely punt the position. So I want to start off by talking about some of my favorite early round running back targets, trying to leave the first 3 rounds with at least one solid running back. And so these are the guys here on the left that I think are nice values at their current price. So Christian McCaffrey, he's my 101. If I have the #1 pick, I'm drafting him. He's also the clear-cut 101 on Yahoo. Then we have Breece Hall, who's going like pick 4, pick 5 on Yahoo. I have him as my 104. He is my running back 2, also Yahoo's running back 2. Then we have Bijan Robinson, and I think on certain platforms where running backs aren't super pushed up, you could make the argument for taking guys like Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson over Bijan Robinson. But for Yahoo specifically, I would be taking Bijan at like the pick 5 area after you have CMC, Lamb, Hill, Breece, and then for me it'd be like Jamar Chase, but you could even make the argument for Bijan Robinson. After those guys, personally, I'd be taking Bijan Robinson over a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Justin Jefferson, just because I think you're going to be able to pick up that wide receiver position a little bit later on in your fantasy drafts. So I like Bijan Robinson. Getting Jahmyr Gibbs on Yahoo outside the first round is a great value in my opinion. When you have all these running backs that are pushed up, if you're getting Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of behind where his ADP is on most other platforms, you got to buy that. Travis Etienne, you look at some of these running backs on the right here that are going in the second round. You have Derrick Henry getting pushed up to the early second. You have Kyren Williams in the mid-second. Pacheco is going like late round 2. The fact that you can get Travis Etienne at the 2-3 turn area, that's a spot where I would definitely look to start hero RB if I can go Christian McCaffrey round 1 and then also get Travis Etienne at like the 2-3 turn area. I think that is a very viable double hero RB start. And then the last running back in the top 3 rounds that I really like here is Devon Achane. Achane on both Yahoo and ESPN is wildly undervalued in my opinion. You have a dude who as a rookie was the running back 5 in points per game, should, come into a larger role, be more established heading into this season, and now he's being drafted as a running back 12. In my opinion, that is crazy. Like I talked about, these running backs are getting way pushed up. You're getting Rachaad White, Joe Mixon creeping into the 3rd round. If you're getting Devon Achane in the mid-3rd, you have to be all over that price tag. I would take him happily in the mid-2nd round. The fact that you can have like pick 6, pick 7, and end up with a 3rd round Devon Achane, I would be all over that price tag. So some of the guys I mentioned here, Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, getting way too pushed up here. 2-3 turn guy, I am not buying that price for a running back who was straight up pretty miserable last year. Rachaad White, Joe Mixon, they could be workhorses, but there are some question marks. Mixon, aging running back, hasn't been super efficient. Rachaad White was just not a good runner last year. So I'm not saying those guys can't pay off in the 3rd round, but I think you're buying them much closer to their ceiling than you probably should be here. But now shifting into the area that is commonly known as the running back dead zone, we have like round 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you can see here on the left, historically drafting running backs in this range has not been a great bet. So you have, since 2017, the total number of running backs that have been picked in each round. So round 4, there have been 29, round 5, 26, round 6, 23, round 7, 27. And then you have the number of running backs with a win rate above 8.33%. Every member in a 12-team league should have a 1 in 12 shot of winning that league. That's that 8.33% number. So you can pretty much see the percentage of running backs that actually gave you above that 1 in 12 shot of winning your league. And it's not looking great from rounds 4 through 7. Round 4 is the worst, on this graphic here at 31%. You have round 5 at 34.6. Round 6, not the worst at 39.1%, but then back down to 37% in round 7. So historically, this has been a spot where you do not want to target running backs. And I think on certain platforms, the dead zone has gotten a little bit better over the last few years. I do not think Yahoo is a platform that is, kind of going along with that. These are some pretty inflated prices at the running back position. I included Joe Mixon here because he's going like 3-4 turn. James Cook, I don't think is like the worst pick. Kenneth Walker, I'm sorry, I'm just not taking him in the 4th. David Montgomery is also a pretty tough sell for me here at the 4-5 turn. On other platforms, he's going like in round 6, so definitely not taking him in round 4. Kamara is honestly someone that I thought would get pushed up even more here. I don't think 4-5 turn is the worst, but still just not a price I'm super excited about. Aaron Jones seems a little expensive. James Conner, Ramondre. Ramondre is maybe the one guy where like 6th round Ramondre, not awful. Zamir White in the 6th round feels a little bit early. Same thing with Mostert. Just the common trend for most of these dudes is that I wouldn't love actually drafting them at their ADP, especially when we get into the wide receivers and the players that are actually going to be available there at the wide receiver position. The running back dead zone is definitely a spot on Yahoo where I would be trying to avoid these running backs. Now, once we get outside the dead zone and we're looking at round like 8, round 9, round 10, this is a spot where if you went hero RB, double hero RB, this is where you could be looking to snag your running back 3 or like your running back 2 and 3 in this area. And Jaylen Warren is someone who really stands out to me, being drafted around pick 94, so like a late 8th round pick. He's my running back 26. He's Yahoo's running back 29. But I mean, on that last graphic, we saw Najee Harris going at pick 70. There was absolutely no reason for there to be 2 rounds of difference between where Najee Harris is being drafted and when Jaylen Warren is being drafted. They were very similar in their production last season. You could make the argument that Jaylen Warren is just the straight up better running back. I mean, I think I can make a very strong argument that Jaylen Warren is the straight up better running back. And we're not even saying that like Jaylen Warren should be picked way ahead of Najee, but if you're getting Jaylen Warren 2 rounds after Najee Harris, that is a very strong price. Jonathan Brooks, someone who I am very high on, is getting absolutely buried on Yahoo, a platform where running backs are very expensive. You are getting a 2nd round rookie who's being paired with a head coach who just used Rachaad White as a workhorse last year. I understand he's coming off a torn ACL. Jonathan Brooks is my running back 18. He's being drafted as the running back 34. Then I think Gus Edwards, Tajay Spears, also just decent values here. Gus Edwards being drafted as the running back 37. He is my running back 33. Seems to be the favorite to lead this Chargers backfield. And then Tajay Spears, you have Tony Pollard going way ahead of Tajay. I think they're pretty much back-to-back. I think this is going to be a very strong split. So I have Tajay Spears as my running back 30. He is being drafted as a running back 4 as the running back 38. Now shifting to just some late round targets, some players I have my eyes on. This ADP number here isn't great because for some reason they like cap out their ADP at like 135. So I think on most drafts, these guys would be going a little bit later, but I think the running back rank is probably more important here. Chase Brown, running back 40, in a very ambiguous Bengals backfield. Chase Brown has the opportunity to be the top back here for this Bengals offense. Getting him as an RB4, great price. Blake Corum, running back 41, could be the best handcuff in fantasy football. Zach Charbonnet, someone who has handcuff upside, but I think he has a real shot to eat into Kenneth Walker's workload, running back 43. You have rookie Jalen Wright, running back 45, kind of the unique guy who is almost like a double handcuff, where if Devon Achane or Raheem Mostert go down, Jalen Wright could step in for either of those dudes and give you, flexible fantasy production. Another rookie with Marshawn Lloyd, running back 50. I think he's going to play a much larger role in this Packers offense than people are expecting. Also a reason why I'm not super high on Josh Jacobs this season. Rico Dowdle could be the RB1 here for the Cowboys, being drafted as the running back 52, and then Ray Davis didn't even have an ADP, running back 59, should be the running back 2 for the Bills, could get some goal line work, also has that handcuff upside. So that's it for the running back position. Now I want to look at the wide receiver position, and similar to what I saw on ESPN, I don't think there's anything crazy when it comes to the early wide receiver values. Like the top 8 guys, I think they're all pretty fairly priced. I want to start off by looking pretty much like 3rd round or later. I think round 2, you also have some solid values. I have Drake London here as one of my favorite targets, being drafted around pick 29, like a mid-3rd round pick. He's my running back 10. But in my opinion, the value really just becomes insane when we're getting into the 4th round. I might have said 3rd round earlier. 4th round, I think, is when the value is absolutely wild. And this is another reason, like I mentioned, why I'm not trying to reach for a Joe Mixon at the 3-4 turn, reach for like a James Cook, Alvin Kamara, guys like that, because the wide receiver position is just so unbelievably stacked in this range. And so I identified some of my favorite targets, but I think this is also a range where like pretty much all these dudes are values. Like even if I don't have, Stephon Diggs this high in my wide receiver rankings, Stephon Diggs as like a late 4th round pick is still a value in my eyes. So first, just going to run through some of my favorite targets. Nico Collins at the 3-4 turn is crazy. The wide receiver 1 on this up-and-coming offense, paired with CJ Stroud. The dude was a wide receiver 1 last year. He's being drafted as the wide receiver 16. DJ Moore, honestly, kind of a very similar situation. Young quarterback, top quarterback, some solid target competition, but DJ Moore going like mid-round 4. He's my running back 16. Tank Dell is being drafted as the wide receiver 26. He's my wide receiver 18. And then Malik Neighbors, you're going to see some of these young wide receivers really buried in drafts. Malik Neighbors, my wide receiver 19, being drafted as the wide receiver 28. I've been super high on Malik Neighbors pretty much this entire process, but he is also just getting insane reports out of camp. Like I haven't even moved him up from those reports, but definitely just good to see. It seems like he's dominating out there. Just needs a little bit of help from this offense, but then also just running through the rest of these names, right? Like I'm not overly high on DK Metcalf. I'm not overly high on Stephon Diggs, but I'm still definitely in on them at their current prices. I mean, you're looking at like pick 80 Christian Kirk, pick 88 Hollywood Brown, pick 93 Chris Godwin. Like the value is just all over the place here. Deontay Johnson going like pick 101. So in this range, I just love to hammer the wide receiver position. It's why I'm trying to lock down at least one running back early on. Would be very cool locking up 2, because then you can just absolutely pepper the wide receiver position where you're taking advantage of all these values. And then something that I think is going to be like a strategy that I'm looking at in pretty much every league is targeting these rookie wide receivers. Looking at these rookies is definitely a spot where you can gain an edge on your league mates. People are typically hesitant to draft these younger players, the unproven options. They don't necessarily like the risk because they haven't actually seen them out there. They haven't seen them performing. But that's really where you can shoot for upside in your fantasy drafts, because like once these guys break out, you're no longer drafting them at this deflated price. They're now skyrocketing. So these people who are passing on them, saying I want to see it first, you're not drafting them as if they've already hit. You're drafting them as almost like mystery boxes. And all these dudes here, Rome Odunze, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., all going outside the first 100 picks on Yahoo Fantasy Football, all being drafted as wide receiver 4s. I think all these guys are great picks. Rome Odunze has the opportunity to be the wide receiver 2, that guy in there on 2 wide receiver sets for an up-and-coming Bears offense. Xavier Worthy, I know there was that one clip of him just getting bodied at training camp, but he's looked great for most of the reports I've seen. Potential like wide receiver 1 for a Patrick Mahomes offense at pick 117. Like that is an insane price. Ladd McConkey should be the wide receiver 1 for the Chargers. Keon Coleman has the opportunity to be the wide receiver 1 for the Bills. And then Brian Thomas Jr. also has the opportunity to play a great role for the Jaguars. Not only are all these wide receivers very talented, you're looking at first round picks, early second round picks, but all of them have landed in pretty awesome situations. Maybe Rome Odunze is the one guy who has like a lot of competition, but the rest of these 4 like potentially have wide receiver 1 upside this season on their offenses, and they're all attached to really good quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence. Like there's a lot of upside for these rookie wide receivers, and getting them like round 9 or later is a price that I'm just going to be all over this season for fantasy. Now pivoting away from wide receivers, looking at the quarterback position. And if I'm being honest here, I think a lot of the quarterback prices are pretty inflated. I really don't like really any of these early round guys at their current price. Josh Allen, late round 2, don't love that. Patrick Mahomes, like early to mid round 3, don't love it. Jalen Hurts at pick 31, like compared to all these other prices, I actually don't think is awful. So if you like Jalen Hurts, I think that's fair. Lamar, 3-4 turn. Like, I'd prefer to take Hurts Allen, like later third, get Lamar early to mid fourth, but you're probably just not going to get that here on Yahoo. CJ Stroud, there's no shot I'm taking a mid fourth round with no rushing upside. Richardson, I like him in the fifth, but you're going to have to pay a fourth round price tag. So the overall theme here is that I don't love the prices on these quarterbacks. I'm not completely out on them. Like, if they start to slip, I'm totally fine drafting one of these early round guys. But at their current ADP, probably not going to have many shares of any of them. Two guys that did kind of stand out as values, though, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I like both of these rookies for fantasy. Jaden Daniels has the rushing upside to come in and produce from day one, even if the offense is a little bit questionable. And then Caleb Williams, I mean, stepping into arguably the best offensive situation a pick one quarterback has ever had. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, Cole Kmet. This is a very, very strong supporting cast. So he's my quarterback 11, being drafted as the quarterback 15. Daniels is my quarterback 12. He's being drafted as the quarterback 14. So if you don't get a good price on these other quarterbacks, they stay at or above their ADP. I'm totally fine just throwing two darts on some of the later round options. So maybe you take a Caleb Williams, you take a Jaden Daniels, and then you also back it up with a second quarterback, a Trevor Lawrence, a Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, someone like that, where you can just kind of pick and choose the matchups for those players. That's the quarterback position. And then now let's shift over to the tight ends. And this is kind of a similar target list that I talked about for the ESPN platform. And I want to start off by talking about these top two, Mark Andrews, Trey McBride. This is something I've noticed on pretty much every platform. There is almost always a significant difference from where Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta are being drafted to where Mark Andrews and Trey McBride are being drafted. And I just don't think the difference should be that extreme at all. All these guys last year, if you're looking at their healthy games where they were the starting tight ends for their offenses, they were all in like the 14 to 15 PPR point per game area. That's where Sam Laporta was over the whole season. That's where Travis Kelce was over the whole season. If you remove Mark Andrews' final game where he left very early on with injury, that's where he was. And then if you only look at the games where Trey McBride took over as the starter, I believe it was his last 9 games of the season, he actually would have been the tight end one last year. So all these dudes, when healthy, in their current roles, were all in a very, very similar range. But now you're getting Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta late round 2, early to mid round 3, and you're getting Mark Andrews 4-5 turn. You're getting Trey McBride in round 5. Why would I ever take a Travis Kelce or Sam Laporta in the second or third round when I can get Andrews late 4th, Trey McBride early 5th? So it's not necessarily that I think these guys should be ranked higher positionally. I'm fine with McBride as my tight end 3, Andrews is my tight end 4, just have them flipped, but they're very, very close together. But in my personal rankings, they are just so much closer to Kelce and Sam Laporta than what we're seeing on a lot of these platforms. So I'm not reaching for those early round tight ends. I will gladly snag a Mark Andrews, Trey McBride. And since I don't love those quarterback prices, I will be pretty interested in snagging one of these higher end tight ends. So if I'm waiting at quarterback right, I'm snagging 2 quarterbacks. I'd prefer to not do the same thing at tight end, especially if you're in a league where it's 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a flex. You don't really want to give up both the quarterback and tight end position. You want to have some elite upside at least one of those. So Andrews, McBride, love shooting for those guys. Would even be willing to take them mid 4th round if you want to lock them down. But then you also have Dalton Kincaid, who's going 5-6 turn. He's my tight end 5, being drafted as the tight end 6. And then Kyle Pitts going in the 6th round, my tight end 6, being drafted as the tight end 7. 2 guys that are a little bit more unproven, but I do think they both come with upside. Dalton Kincaid, potential number 1 target for Josh Allen. Kyle Pitts has proven he's talented. I know he hasn't paid off for fantasy, but you look back at his rookie season, it was great production. He's still only 23 years old and now has a legit quarterback in Kirk Cousins. So these are the 4 tight ends that I'm really looking to target here. Guys I'm very interested in getting on my rosters, especially if I'm punting on an elite quarterback. And then I do just want to wrap it up here by talking about the defense and kicker positions. It's going to be the same thing I talked about in my ESPN video. I personally don't really play in leagues where you have defenses and kickers, but on like the off chance I do get in one, maybe like my home league, we probably run it with that. I will never be drafting a defense or kicker with any pick that is not my last two selections. It's just not worth it. Looking at the kicker position, there's just not enough separation from the number one kicker to like the kicker number 20 in points per game that warrants you reaching up like a few rounds before your last pick to snag them. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pan out. And then for the defensive position, even though there is a little bit of a difference, like you look at the number one defense points per game compared to like the number 12, there is going to be a little bit of a difference here, but you do not only have to have one defense every single week. If you just punt the position, you're like, whatever, I'll take defense with my last pick, there are always going to be a few decent streaming options because you're going to have people that have that set it and forget it defense. Regardless of matchup, they're going to play them. And if you just punt the position, you say, whatever, my last pick, I'll snag a defense. Then every week you just churn the waiver wire. You find the best matchups. You find the defense that's going up against just the worst offense that's going to turn the ball over a million times. And you're going to get pretty similar production to someone that had to reach a few rounds to get the best defense in the league. It just doesn't make sense to give up value at other positions for kicker or defense. So that's my advice there on those two positions, and that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. If you are drafting on Yahoo, you use this video, hopefully it helps. Let me hear your rosters, like when you guys do draft. Would love to see those. But thank you all for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one.